Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I am doing a little bit more on our instructional videos and see if we can help some with the CDL manual. Managing space is what we will be talking about today. To be a safe driver, you need space all around your vehicle. When things go wrong, space gives you time to think and to take action. To have space available when something goes wrong, you need to manage space. While this is true for all drivers, it is very important for large vehicles. They take up more space and they require more space for stopping and turning. Of all the space around your vehicle, it is the area ahead of the vehicle, the space you're driving into, that is most important. The need for space ahead. You need space ahead in case you must suddenly stop. According to accident reports, the vehicle that trucks and buses most often run into is the one in front of them. The most frequent cause is following too closely. Remember, if the vehicle ahead of you is smaller than yours, it can probably stop faster than you can. You may crash if you are following too closely. How much space? How much space should you keep in front of you? One good rule says you need at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40. At greater speeds, you must add 1 second for safety. For example, if you are driving a 40-foot vehicle, you should leave 4 seconds between you and the vehicle ahead. In a 60-foot rig, you'll need 6 seconds over 40 miles per hour. You'll need 5 seconds for a 40-foot vehicle and 7 seconds for a 60-foot vehicle. See Figure 212. To know how much space you have, wait until the vehicle ahead passes a shadow on the road, a pavement marking, or some other clear landmark. Then count off the seconds like this: 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, and so on, until you reach the same spot. Compare your count with the rule of second for every 10 feet of length of your vehicle. So that's 1 second for every 10 feet of length of your vehicle. If you are driving a 40-foot truck and only counted up to 2 seconds, you're too close. Drop back a little and count again until you have 4 seconds of following distance. 5 seconds if you're going over 40 miles per hour. After a little practice, you will know how far back you should be. Remember to add 1 second for speeds above 40 miles per hour. Also remember that when the road is slippery, you need much more space to stop your vehicle. You can't stop others from following you too closely, but there are things you can do to make it safer. Stay in the right. Heavy vehicles are often tailgated when they can't keep up with the speed of traffic. This often happens when you're going uphill. If a heavy load is slowing you down, stay in the right lane if you can. Going uphill, you should not pass another slow vehicle unless you can get around quickly and safely. Dealing with tailgaters safely. In a large vehicle, it's often hard to see whether a vehicle is close behind you. You may be tailgated. When you are traveling slowly slower drivers trapped behind slow vehicles often follow closely. In bad weather, many car drivers follow large vehicles closely during bad weather, especially when it is hard to see the road ahead. If you find yourself being tailgated, here are some things you can do to reduce the chances of a crash. Avoid quick changes. If you have to slow down or turn, uh, signal early and reduce speed very gradually. Another thing that's good to do is flash your brake lights if you know if somebody's following you too close. Flash your brake lights plenty ahead of time so they know that you're getting ready to stop. Avoid quick changes if you have to slow down or turn, um, signal very early. Increase your following distance. Open up room in front of you will help you to avoid having to make sudden speed or direction changes. It also makes it easier for the tailgater to get around you. Don't speed up. It's safer to be tailgated at a low speed than a high speed. Avoid tricks. Don't turn on your tail lights or flash your brake lights. Follow the suggestions above, I would say. Um, don't, as they're saying, don't use that as a trick. Don't flash your brake lights just trying to trick somebody and get them to back off. Be legitimate about it and not so far ahead that then they think that you're just playing tricks with them. Just use wisdom with doing that. Space to sides. Commercial vehicles are often wide and take up most of the lane. Safe drivers will manage what little space they have. You can do this by keeping your vehicle centered in your lane and avoid driving alongside others. Staying centered in a lane, you need to keep your vehicle centered in the lane to keep safe clearance on either side of your vehicle. If your vehicle is wide, you have little room to spare. Traveling next to others, there are two dangers in traveling alongside other vehicles. Another driver may change lanes suddenly and turn into you. You may be trapped when you need to change lanes. Find an open spot where you aren't near other traffic. When traffic is heavy, it may be hard to find an open spot. If you must travel near other vehicles, try to keep as much space as possible between you and them. Also, drop back or pull forward so that you are sure the other driver can see you. Strong winds. Strong winds make it difficult to stay in your lane. The problem is usually worse for lighter vehicles. This problem can be especially bad coming out of tunnels. Don't drive alongside others if you can avoid it. Hitting overhead objects. So know what your overhead clearance is in your space above. Hitting overhead objects is dangerous. Make sure you always have overhead clearance. Don't assume that the height posted at bridges and overpasses are correct. Repaving or packing snow may have reduced the clearance since the heights were posted. The height of a cargo van changes its height. An empty van is higher than a loaded one. That you got under a bridge when you were loaded does not mean that you can do it when you are empty. If you doubt you have safe space to pass under an object, go slowly. If you aren't sure you can make it, take another route. Warnings are often posted on low bridges or overpasses, but sometimes they are not. Some roads can cause a vehicle to tilt. There can be problem clearing objects along the edge of the road, such as signs, trees or bridge supports where this is a problem. Drive a little closer to the center of the road. Before you back into an area, get out and check for overhanging objects such as trees, branches, or electric wires. It's easy to miss seeing them while you are backing. Also check for other hazards at the same time. Space below. Many drivers forget about the space under their vehicles. That space can be very small. When a vehicle is heavily loaded, this is often a problem. On dirt roads and or unpaved yards, don't take a chance on getting hung up. Drainage channels across roads can cause the ends of some vehicles to drag across such depressions carefully. Railroad tracks can also cause problems, particularly when pulling trailers with a low underneath clearance. Don't take a chance on getting hung up on halfway across a railroad track. That's a very, very good point to keep in mind, and always know the vehicle you're driving and know what your underclearance is. And just like they were talking about there, and I talked about in another video before, know your underclearance. Some of these trailers that are low belly trailers for hauling tall equipment that detach from the front, and the front of the trailer drops down and equipment backs on, those are very, very low trailers. Also, there's trailers, special large boat equipment trailers and things such as that are also very low. They have a low center of gravity. They're low clearance. Some of those only have 6 inches or some even less clearance from the ground, and so you need to make sure that if you're going through a dip or going over a railroad track or something, that you can safely make it across without dragging and getting hung up. If you get hung up on a railroad track, you lose your license on a commercial vehicle because you're supposed to know your clearance, and so keep that in mind. Space for turns. The space around a truck or a bus is important in turns because of wide turning and off-tracking. Large vehicles can hit other vehicles or objects turning during turns. Right turns. Here are some rules to help prevent right turn crashes. Turn slowly to give yourself and others more time to avoid problems. If you are driving a truck or bus that cannot make the right turn without swinging into another lane, turn wide as you complete the turn. Keep the rear of your vehicle close to the curb. This will stop other drivers from passing you on the right. Don't turn wide to the left as you start the turn. A following driver may think you are turning left and try to pass you on the right. You may crash into the other vehicle as you complete your turn. If you must cross into the oncoming lane to make a turn, watch out for vehicles coming. Stop, however, coming toward you. Give them room to go by you or to stop. However, don't back up for them because you might hit someone behind you. Left turns. On a left turn, make sure you have reached the center of the intersection before you start the left turn. If you turn too soon, the left side of your vehicle may hit another vehicle because of off-tracking. If there are 2 turning lanes, always take the right turn lane. Don't start in the inside lane because you may have to swing right in to make the turn. Drivers on your left can be more readily seen. Space needed to cross or enter traffic. Beware of the size and weight of your vehicle when you cross or enter traffic. Here are some important things to keep in mind because of slow acceleration and the space large vehicles require. You may need a much larger gap to enter traffic than you would in a car. Acceleration varies with the load. Allow more room if your vehicle is heavily loaded. Before you start across a road, make sure you can get all the way across before traffic reaches you. Seeing hazards. Importance of seeing hazards. What is a hazard? A hazard is a road condition or other road user, driver, bicyclist, pedestrian, that is a possible danger. For example, a car in front of you is headed toward the freeway exit, but its brake lights come on and he begins braking hard. This could mean that the driver is uncertain about taking the off-ramp. He might suddenly return to the highway. This car is a hazard. If the driver of the car cuts in front of you, it is no longer just a hazard, it is an emergency. So be aware of hazards and watch for hazards all the time while you're driving, and make sure that you're always aware of your surroundings. And it goes back to that so many times, just always being aware of your surroundings. So I will go ahead and stop at that, and we'll continue the hazards portion of this in the next video. And then, well, you know what? Scratch that. Let's just do this. Let's just get this knocked out and do the questions for this section. And then we'll move on to distracted driving next time. Seeing hazards lets you be prepared. You will have more time to act if you see hazards before they become emergencies. In the example above, you might make a lane change or slow down to prevent a crash if the car suddenly cuts in front of you. Seeing this hazard gives you time to check your mirrors and signal a lane change. Being prepared reduces the danger. A driver who did not see the hazard until the slow car pulled back on the highway in front of him would have to do something very suddenly. Sudden braking or a quick lane change is much more likely to lead to a crash. Learning to see hazards. There are often clues that will help you see hazards. The more you drive, the better you can learn to see hazards. This section will talk about hazards that you should be aware of. Hazardous roads. Slow down and be very careful if you see any of the following road hazards. When possible, a work or sorry about that. Work zones is another hazard. When people are working on the road, it is a hazard. There may be narrow lanes, sharp turns, or uneven surfaces. Other drivers are often distracted and drive unsafely. Workers and construction vehicles may get in the way. Drive slowly and carefully near work zones. Use your four-way flashers or brake lights to warn drivers behind you. Sometimes the pavement drops off sharply near the edge of the road. Driving too near the edge can tilt your vehicle toward the side of the road. This can cause the top of your vehicle to hit roadside objects, signs, trees, limbs. Also, it can be hard to steer as you cross the drop off, going off the road or coming back on. It's very hazardous, obviously. You got the edges of the pavement and you drop off and come back on, and it can cause sudden jerks and so on, and panic and cause you to steer wrong, and yeah, it causes a lot of issues. Foreign objects, things that have fallen on the road, can be a hazard. They can be a danger to your tires and wheels and rims. They can damage electrical and brake lines. They can be caught between dual tires and cause severe damage. Some obstacles that appear to be harmless can be very dangerous. For example, cardboard boxes may be empty, but they may also contain some solid or heavy material capable of causing damage. The same is true of a paper or and cloth, of paper and cloth sacks. It's important to remain alert for objects of all sorts so you can see them early enough to avoid them without making sudden unsafe moves. Off ramps. Freeway and turnpike exits can be particularly dangerous for commercial vehicles. Off ramps and on ramps often have speed limit signs posted. Remember, these speeds may be safe for automobiles, but may not be safe for larger vehicles or heavy loaded vehicles. Exit that go downhill and turn at the same time can be especially dangerous. The downgrade makes it difficult to reduce speed. Braking and turning at the same time can be dangerous practice. Make sure you are going slow enough before you get on the curve part of an on-ramp. Drivers who are hazardous. In order to protect yourself and others, you must know when other drivers may do something hazardous. Some clues to this type of hazard are discussed below. Blocked vision. People who can't see others are very dangerous hazards. Be alert for drivers whose vision is blocked. Vans, loaded station wagons, and cars with the rear window blocked are examples. Rental trucks should be watched carefully. Their drivers are often not used to the limited vision they have to the sides and rear of the truck. In winter, vehicles with frosted or ice covered or snow covered windows are a hazard. Vehicles may be partially hidden by blind intersections or alleys. If you only can see the rear or front of the vehicle but not the driver, then he or she can't see you. Be alert because he or she may back out or enter into your lane. Always be prepared to stop. Delivery trucks can present a hazard. Packages or vehicle doors often block the driver's vision. Drivers of step vans, postal vehicles, and local delivery vehicles often are in a hurry and may suddenly step out of their vehicle or drive their vehicle into the traffic lane. Parked vehicles can be hazardous, especially when people start to get out of them, or they may suddenly start up and drive into your way. Watch for movement inside the vehicle or movement of the vehicle itself that shows people are inside, which watch for brake lights or backup lights, exhaust, and other clues that the driver is about to move. So just keep all of these things in mind and watch for them. That is all hazards that you can be aware of and avoid. Be careful of a stopped bus. Passengers may be crossing in front of or behind the bus, and they often can't see you. And I'm going to go on with the stop bus thing. If it's a school bus and it's stopped, they should have their red lights on. You go around that, that's a $300 fine. In most states, some states are higher than that, but the typical standard is a $300 fine plus court costs. And then in some states, if you have a second offense at school bus stop arm violation, then you have a suspended license. And if you're a commercial driver, you're going to lose your license for 6 months. So just be aware of that. Pedestrians and bicycles can also be a distraction. Be aware of pedestrians and bicycles. Just being alert, watching, again, that's watching all around you all the time, knowing, checking your mirrors, knowing what's around you, what's going on. Is there pedestrians on the sidewalk? Are there bicycles on the sidewalk or on the road around you, or areas where there's high potential to be pedestrians, such as industrial areas with big parking lots and parking garages, and the locations for work maybe across the street, school zones, um, all of these places like this that's high potential for pedestrian traffic. Just watch out around colleges, around college campuses. Pedestrian traffic, bicycles, a lot of it. Be alert. Distractions, people who are distracted by their phone, by eating, um, things like that. They're a distracted driver. They're not paying attention to what's going on, and they could run into you or something else, causing you to have to make an emergency stop or something. So be alert of that. Be watching the other drivers. Children, um, parents working with children in the back that are maybe causing an issue or whatever, and they're distracted and they're turning around trying to take care of kids while they're driving. Major distraction. Be aware of that. Just watching who's driving, who you're around. Talkers, drivers who are just talking to one another, just on and on and on and on and on, constant. That's a distraction. Um, be alert of that. Workers, construction zones. You've got pedestrians on the road. They're working. Be alert of that. That's why they have lower speed limits in construction zones and double fines for going over speed limit. Watch for the pedestrians. If you hit a worker and you're in a commercial vehicle, you're going to lose your license. Just be alert, be aware all the time. Ice cream trucks, big hazard. They're constantly stopping. They got kids and people constantly running out into the street to the truck. Be aware, be alert, watching all your areas. You got pedestrians again with that deal. A disabled vehicle on the side of the road. There might be somebody getting in and out of that vehicle or walking around that vehicle. Be alert. Watch what's going on around those vehicles when you're driving. Accidents. If there's an accident, there's probably going to be people out walking around, checking out things, calling the police, whatever. You need to be aware of that and know that if there's an accident, slow down, use caution, keep checking your mirrors, checking for pedestrians, checking everything as you're going. Shoppers, people in and around shopping areas, shopping malls, parking lots, around the shopping malls, things like that. You got pedestrian traffic. Keep an eye out for that. Confused drivers, somebody that may be unfamiliar with the area they're in and where they're trying to get to, and they're stopping and looking and turning and changing directions and stuff, trying to figure out where they're going. Be alert of that. Watch for that. Slow drivers. Watch for slow drivers that are going way slower than speed of traffic, which is impeding traffic. Traffic is backing up, and people are getting impatient. Just be alert of that. And if you do come up behind a slow vehicle and you need to pass that person, don't just turn on your turn signal and look ahead to make sure no traffic's coming so you can safely get around. But you also need to look behind you in your mirror before you move out, because there might be somebody further back behind you who's more impatient, and they're coming flying around that side trying to go around multiple cars. Be aware of that. Watch your mirrors. Know what's going on around your vehicle. Drivers signaling to turn may be a hazard. They're stopping to turn, especially on a highway. Get yourself stopped. Watch your mirrors. Know what people behind you is doing. Know if everybody behind you is getting stopped. Stop far enough behind the vehicle in front of you that you've left yourself an out. If you see somebody behind you is not getting stopped, you may have to make a quick decision to go to the shoulder or to the ditch to avoid being hit yourself. Be aware of those things. Give yourself an out. But also know that the driver behind you might suddenly think maybe that's their out and they need to go to the right in order to not hit you. So there's many things you have to suddenly think about quickly and decide what your best solution is to avoid everything you can do to avoid the collision. Drivers in a hurry, weaving in and out of traffic, passing people, passing 4 or 5 cars. Be aware of them. They're a hazard. So watch for them, let them do what they're going to do before you continue trying to do what you're going to do. You just maintain your space and don't worry about trying to do any other maneuvers until that driver's out of the way. Impaired drivers, drunk drivers. Watch for them. You're going to see them slowing down a lot, speeding up, slow down, speed up, veer to the left, veer to the right, crossing lanes. Different things like that are signs of an impaired driver. Be aware of those things. Watch what's going on around you. Watch for other vehicles around you. You're in charge of your safe space, so make sure that you're maintaining your safe space. Driver body movements is a clue. Watch what the driver's doing, their body movements. If they're looking this way and they're looking that way, just constantly, and they're looking up and they're looking in the mirror and they're looking around, they might be confused or they're hyper alert or they're maybe intoxicated. There's many things that can cause someone to do that. Maybe they're having a medical issue. Maybe they have anxiety and there's something going on that's making them nervous and they're hyper alert. There's many different things involved with that. So just watch the driver's body movements. Conflicts. If you're having confrontation with another driver, do everything you can to avoid the conflict. Don't ever get out and engage in a conflict. Just do your best to get your vehicle away from the conflict and get out of there. Call 911 if you need to, but get out of there the best you can. Always have a plan. You should always be looking for a hazard. Continue to learn to see hazards on the road. However, don't forget why you are looking for the hazard. In order to have time to plan a way out of an emergency, when you see a hazard, think about the emergencies that could develop and figure out what you would do. Always be prepared to take action based on your plans. In this way, you will be prepared. Defensive driving, who will improve your own safety as well as the safety of others on the road. Subjections. Test your knowledge. How do you find out how many seconds of following distance space you have? Write that down. If you are driving a 30-foot vehicle at 5 miles per hour, how many seconds of following distance should you allow? You should decrease your following distance if somebody is following you too closely. True or false? If you swing wide to the left before turning right, another vehicle may try to pass you on the right. True or false? What is a hazard? Why make emergency plans when you see a hazard? Why make emergency plans when you see a hazard? Okay, we're going to go back and test your knowledge. Number 1, what did you write down? It says, how do you find out how many seconds of following distance space you have? Correct answer, find a solid object and count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, and so on, depending on the length of vehicle you have, how many seconds your following distance should be. If you are driving a 30-foot vehicle at 55 miles per hour, how many seconds of following distance should you allow? That would be 4 seconds. Because you have a 30-foot vehicle, that's 3 seconds for 45 miles per hour. And under 55, you should be at 4 seconds. You should decrease your following distance if somebody is following you too closely. True or false? That would be false. They're tricking you there. It said you should decrease your following distance if somebody is following you too closely. That would be false. You need to increase your following distance. If you swing wide to the left before turning right, another driver may try to pass you on the right. True or false? True. What is a hazard? A hazard is any object on the road, in the road, or near or around the road that is going slower, or something lying on the road, or anything of that nature. Many things can create a hazard for you. Be aware of those. Why make emergency plans when you see a hazard? Always have an out. Always leave yourself an out. Make that emergency plan ahead of time where you know where your out is. Okay, thank you for watching. Next time we'll move into distracted driving. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, bye now.